Tisha B'Av Tavshin Ayin Zayin. Any 6-year-old familiar with shul walks into the Heichal this evening, looks around and realizes that there's something terribly different about tonight. After all, the lights are dimmed and people are sitting on floors, and perhaps most acutely, he'll notice that the Paroches has been removed from the Aron Kodesh or shoved aside, no longer in proper place. Umeisirna Paroches Miflei Ha'aron, states the Ramah in Orchaim Siman Tov Kuf Nates. And we remove or push aside the Paroches, the cover of the Aron Kodesh. Al Shem, because of the pasuk that we will read in Eicha this evening, Bitza Emraso Asher Tziva Mimekedem, referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's carrying out and fulfilling, bringing to achievement his decree, permitting, as the Medrash says, Titus HaRasha, to tear, to take a knife, a sword to the Paroches, to the garment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as it were, in the Beis HaMikdash. Why does the removal of the Paroches on the night of Tisha B'Av, more than anything else, best capture the theme of the suffering of the Jews in our sense of avelus and mourning due to the sin of Schinam perpetrated by the Jewish people over the course of time? And why is it linked to the words Bitza Emraso, the carrying forth of achievement? So let's think for a moment. When was the first time that we read of the notion of Betza within the entirety of Tanakh? It's by the sale of Yosef HaTzadik. Now, everyone knows the story of the sale of Yosef HaTzadik. The brothers are fed up, sick and tired of being called to the table of the father Yaakov Avinu, and his telling them about the Dibar Ra'ah, about the maligning that Yosef had done regarding all of them. So they decide, here comes the dreamer, let's take him, let's kill him and get him out of the way. But Reuven turns to them and says, no, don't kill him, but rather take him and throw him into the pit. And later, when they're sitting down and they're eating, Yehuda turns to them and says, Ma betza ki naharog es achinu v'chisinu estamo. Ma betza ki naharog es achinu, as interpreted by Rashi, referring to what mammon, what money is there, is typically understood that as meaning that Yehuda turned to them and said, if we kill him, there's nothing in it for us. No money in our pockets, no gain. V'chisinu estamo v'nalem es misaso, and we'll never be able to tell anyone that we killed him. So it doesn't pay. But rather, take them out, sell them, we'll make a couple of bucks. And we'll be able to say that we didn't kill him. Says the Ksavik Kabbalah. That doesn't really make sense. After all, these were the sons of Yaakov Avinu, who was a terribly rich man. They didn't need any money that could possibly be thrown their way by the Ishmaelim or by the Medonim. And how could they possibly think to themselves, as Yehuda was articulating, V'chisinu estamo v'nalim es misaso, and we won't be able to walk around telling people what we did to him, because we'll get in a lot of trouble. And everyone knows that if you're going to take vengeance, if you're going to assume revenge on someone who has wronged you, the sweetest part of revenge is the ability to walk around afterwards and say, he got his. I showed him. I taught him a lesson. And to suggest that Yehuda was saying to the brothers, if we kill him off, we won't be able to tell anybody about it. So there's no gain on any level. The money we don't need. We won't be able to walk around lauding the fact that we finally gave him his due. Yehuda says that's not what was going on. The Ksavik Kabbalah rather says that's not what was going on. Yehuda was saying to the brothers words of Tochacha, words of rebuke and words of Musar. He was effectively saying to them, Ma betza ki narog es achinu. What will ultimately be achieved, not monetary gain, but what will be achieved if indeed we even have a hand in the ultimate passing of our brother Yosef. Even if we don't kill him outright, but permit him to remain in the pit in which we have cast him. Well, we know the Gemara in Shabbos tells us, Mayim ein bo, the pit into which Yosef was cast had no water. Mayim ein bo, nechashim v'akrabim yesh bo. But there were serpents and there were snakes. And other wild animals, strong enough and large enough, with a long enough grass, could have reached in perhaps and pulled him out and killed him. So Yehuda says to them, don't pat yourselves on the back and think that you'll be able to sleep at night because you didn't immediately, directly cause his death. But rather, v'chisinu estomo, what do you think will be accomplished if we leave him in the pit? You know what will happen? V'chisinu estomo, not we will have covered up his blood, but rather we will have covered ourselves with a garment of blood. And no matter where we go, and what simcha we attend, and whether we're dressing up or dressing down, there will be stains of blood that we'll see on our own garments. And we'll always see blood on our hands, no matter how well we scrub them. And that's why the conversation recorded between Yehuda and his brothers specifically is when the Pasuk says, Vayeshu lecha lochem, when they sat down to eat. Because Yehuda turned to his brothers and said, you're going to eat? We're going to eat? Who could eat? Who could bench? Who could bench? Pull him out. Sell him off. Be it the Ishmaelim, the Medonim. But don't have a hand in his loss of life. So do you know what Yehuda was effectively teaching them? He was teaching his brothers that in life we can have all kinds of cheshbonos for what we do, all kinds of calculations for what we do or what we refrain from doing. But at the end of the day, there are consequences for those deliberations and for those actions or inactions. For all those decisions in our avodas Hashem, all of the cheshbonos in the relationships that we have with each other, insofar as what we say, the kind word provided or the kind word denied, the sense of distancing ourselves or eschewing the presence of others or the company of others, looking askantly upon them, whether it's with other segments of Jewry or whether it's with Rahman al our spouses at times, or our parents, or our siblings, or our children, or our friends, or the decisions and deliberations in which we engage regarding the tzibur if we are leaders, and pat ourselves on the back thinking that we're making the right decisions when indeed we may be doing nothing other than impeding the ultimate growth of the tzibur over which we hold sway. Yehuda was teaching them that in life, at the end of the day, there are consequences to our decisions. And the effects of those deliberations and the actions and inactions do not simply disappear without cost, bechinam, into the wind, but rather are worn by all of us in the fabric of who we are, whom we become, what we stand for, and what we ultimately accomplish. So perhaps the sin of sinas chinam that we should concentrate on this Tisha B'Av is not simply the cruel and undeserved treatment that we show to others at times, but rather the erroneous belief that our deliberations and actions, though terribly wrong at times, are bechinam, uncharted, receiving a free pass from the Ribono Shel Olam. And it's simply not true. Nothing in life is free. No decision in life is bechinam. Botzei Aberach Ni, it's Hashem's, said David HaMelech, that anyone who extols or lauds an individual of compromise, Berach Hashem, has effectively blasphemed the Almighty. It says the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Zayin, for those of you learning Daf Yomi, it refers to the Maisa HaEgel, not simply to the Jewish people who created the golden calf with their own cheshbonos, their own calculations, but it refers no less than to Aharon the Kohen Gadol. Says Rashi, She'asa Aharon pshara beino levein atzmo, that Aharon made compromises within his own heart and his own mind. And he said to himself, he saw that indeed, as the Pasuk states, Vayar Aharon, Aaron saw Vayivam Mizbeach Lefanav, and he built a Mizbeach before the golden calf. Says the Gemara, Vayivam Mizbeach Aharon intuited and understood from the fact that his nephew Hur was Zavuach, was slaughtered and killed by Klal Yisrael when he was trying to stop them from engaging in the creation of the golden calf. Aaron said to himself, Ribono Shel Olam, what happens if they will kill me? And indeed, there will be a kiyum in the pasuk of Eicha. Im yehareg b'migdash Hashem kohen v'navi. If there will be killed in the Beis HaMikdash of Hashem Yisparach a kohen and a navi, referring to himself, and tshuva will not even be possible. And therefore, says Rashi, she'asa Aaron pshara bein levein atzmo. With this in mind, he made a compromise. V'horeh heter liatzmo, and he paskin that it was permissible for him lasos lahem es ha'ego, to help them create the golden calf. Not a simple cheshbon, not a simple person. And even Aaron the Kohen Gadol, the commentaries explain, indeed had erred. So perhaps on Tisha B'Av, when we remove the Paroches from the Aron Kodesh, perhaps we're removing it in its most simplistic form as a display, a manifestation of Avelus, of mourning. Perhaps as a representation of Bitza Imraso, of the consequences achieved by the Nevuos that Klal Yisrael failed to hearken to, leading to the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, of both Batei Mikdash, ultimately, and the banishment of Klal Yisrael from Eretz Yisrael. But perhaps for us as well, for all of us who will sit low this evening and tomorrow, perhaps it's really telling us, as we move the Paroches aside, that we should look beyond the Paroches, behind the curtains, pushing aside the curtains on our hearts, pushing aside the curtains on our minds, and thinking about exactly why we do what we do. And if perhaps when we decide to act upon those deliberations, to realize that maybe in the recesses of our minds we're granting ourselves a free pass, that after all we mean well. And God forbid we wouldn't willfully or willingly hurt any other Jew. And if God forbid we do, since we had the right intentions, since we made the right cheshbonos, the Shema, we'll get a free pass. No. That's sinna schinam. That's sinna with a belief that we'll get a free pass. And after thousands of years, as we're sitting low again, it's ours to realize that nothing is bechinam. And so we have to try harder. And as we remove the paroches from our souls and our hearts and our minds, we have to look deeply into ourselves and ask ourselves how we can better serve Hashem Yisparach, how we can more acutely be better husbands and wives, sons and daughters, siblings and parents, friends and members of the tzibur, and how we can move forward into the year that comes to be zocha that next year we should be able to broadcast from Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh, reaching out to each other, reminding ourselves that we are hastening the arrival of Mashiach Tzidkenu and the Binyan Beis Bayis Shlishi, the permanent house of Hashem Yisparach, in which we could serve Him appropriately and properly, together as one nation, with a sense of ahava, a sense of Mesorah, and being Mesurim to the Torah Hashem, and not having to experience Tisha B'Av as a day of Avelus, but rather as a Yom Tov in all its splendor.